Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Today, we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're going to use our bungees, our resistance bands, whatever tension you have for your workout. Now, if you don't have your bungees yet, again, like some of the other pieces, I strongly encourage you to do it, especially if the going back to the gym is not in your near future. This is a very versatile tool, and to date, all we've been doing for the most part is some of our smaller accessories type movements, as well as some of the warm-ups. But today I'm going to show you how to use a bungee for a complete upper body movement and show you some of new movements that we haven't done that you can do with the bungee. So first off, what you're going to need is to find some sort of stationary object. Now, being that I'm at a gym at my house, I have a squat rack, so I'm going to use this as my fixed object. Let's say you don't have a fixed object. Maybe it's a door, maybe it's a door handle, maybe it's a chair or some sort of stationary object. What you need to do is be able to wrap around that stationary object and through. Now, the higher the height of the stationary object, the more variations you have possible in your workout. So for right now, what we're going to start with is we're going to keep it somewhat simple. All you need is a stationary object as high or as close to as high as your shoulder. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with shoulder height and work our way down, and we're going to use this as our warm-up and our workout. So what I want you to do is find that stationary object with your bungee and just loop it around and then loop it through. Now, depending on your resistance band, the tension, the weight, that might dictate how many repetitions you do, but I'm going to go through and show you 10 repetitions of every exercise. Okay? At the end of the workout, if you want to go back and do it again for round 2, by all means, go through and hit it again. Make it kind of like a circuit style. Then hit it again for round 3. Does not matter, okay? Your rep count, your speed, your tempo is a little bit determined by the stationary object that you have, the tension of the bungee that you have, as well as the space that you have. So here's what we're going to do. Exercise number 1 is going to be a rotator cuff exercise. So we've been doing internal, external rotation on air, and I had mentioned that you could use a dumbbell or a bungee. Well, today's going to be the bungee. So the same setup goes like we did on air. The elbow is going to be pinned to the side, and what we're going to be doing is coming in or across your body. Okay, so right now my right elbow, my right arm, my right side is my working arm. So I'm going to kind of just keep that elbow pinned, and my arm from the elbow to the wrist, which is also called my lower arm, is going to be perpendicular to my body, and I'm just going to come across. Now, 2 things you can do if you want more resistance. 1, step further away so that there is an increase in tension. Number 2 is, instead of this being 90 degrees, open away, and now it's at like 130, 135 degrees. So I have a bigger range of motion, therefore a longer time under tension, therefore increasing my difficulty. I'm going to stay squared up, keep it simple, and I'm just going to scoot out a little bit. And again, we're going 10 repetitions. So right arm, right side, right rotator cuff. Okay, it's going to be internal rotation for 10. Keep that tummy tight, and let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now here's our first change, internal rotation. We have not done weighted or resisted external rotation. I'm going to scoot back in to where it's a little bit lighter on the tension, because this is going to be a little bit of a lighter movement. My left side is now going to be working, doing the external rotation, or opening up away from my body. And we have done this exercise. And the one thing you want to make sure is that that elbow doesn't leave the body. So by you opening up and leaving your body doesn't add any benefit to it. So keep it pinned. If it's 90 degrees, if it's just past 90, wherever it is, externally rotate with the elbow pinned to the side. So here we go. We're going to go 10 repetitions. 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn around. I'm going to go back to my right side and I'm going to do my external rotation with my right arm. So this will be my first set external rotation. So I'm going to turn around here to you guys and you'll actually be able to see the back. So from the back, as I externally rotate, I want to make sure I open up a little bit. Okay, so sitting up nice and tall, setting the shoulders down and back or depressed and retracted. And I'm going to open it up. All right, 10 repetitions in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so that was my right side external rotation. Now I need my left side internal rotation. Now the internal rotation is a little bit stronger. So this is the one where I want to kind of bump out a little bit to create a little bit of tension, an increase in tension. Okay, and as long as my elbow stays pinned to my side, I'm good to go. So we got 10 repetitions in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there we go. We did internal and external rotation, our first go round, as a warm-up with our bungees. Now remember we started about shoulder height. That's because we want to do internal, external rotation with our elbow shoulder height. So I'm going to start off with my right side so you can see this side first. Okay, however you want to grab it, I'm going to try and be elbow, shoulder, shoulder, just like we've done before, rotator cuffs. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine my elbow is on a table. So I don't want it to move. I want it to move as little as possible, if at all. Okay, now my stomach is going to be tight because the weight and the resistance is behind me. So what I don't want to have it do is pull me back. So elbow up, and I'm just going to rotate down. Okay, rotate back up to where I started. We're going to go 10 repetitions in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So right side, internal rotation. Now I'm going to go left side, external rotation. And remember that external, anytime you're going away from your midline, the body, away from your body, it's going to be a little bit heavier. It's going to be a little bit harder. It's going to be a little bit weaker. That's why all of our pushing muscles and pushing movements are not as strong as our pulling movements, okay? So this one right here, I'm going to do the same setup, but now the resistance or the load is in front of us. The setup stays the same though. Now, I'm still on that same tabletop that's about shoulder height, but I'm going to open up, okay, for 10 repetitions in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now because I did my internal rotation with my right side, now it's time for my external rotation. So I don't have to do much changing other than just switch hands with the bungee, but the setup is going to be the same. Imaginary tabletop, hand, elbow, shoulder, everything is all even. Okay, and I'm going to open up. Okay, 10 repetitions in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 10. Okay, so now I have one more set, the strong exercise with my left side. So all I'm going to do is turn around here so you guys can see. Okay, and it's going to be elbow high, okay, just like it's resting on that tabletop, and coming down. 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and break. All right, so there's going to be Down low, internal external rotation. Up top, internal external rotation, all with the bungees. Now feel free to hit pause and go through that again, or come back when we're done and do it again. But we're moving on. Now we're going to keep this pivot point up even with the chest, up even with the shoulders, and we're going to do what's called a face pull. Now if we're at the gym, we do this on the cables, okay, but we could also do this at the bungees on the bungees at the gym. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a double overhand grip, and similar to when you do your bent over row with the dumbbells and you pull to the ribs and you pull to the chest and you retract or pin your shoulders, the same thing goes for this face pull, except for you're standing up, not bending over. So let's pretend that you got dumbbells in your hands, but you're gonna be standing up and you're gonna row. Now if your shoulders don't feel so good or warmed up, then do the same darn thing. Row to the chest, row to the ribs like you do in your bent over row. But the eventual goal is to row up high. Okay. Now, as from a stance standpoint, you could go squared up. You could also go staggered stance. Now, the only difference between the two is if you're squared up, there's nothing really holding you front or back. So you got to kind of tighten down the tummy and squeeze the backside. Not a bad thing. I personally like to go in a staggered stance because if the weight pulls me forward, my front foot is there to plant me and stop. If I lean too much, I'll feel that on my back foot, and I'll know to push off and straighten out. Okay, so it just gives me a little bit of feedback. But here's a couple of consistent or consecutive repetitions. Elbows stay high, hands stay high, face pull. You're pulling to the face. It's actually kind of the chin or the throat. Okay, we're going to do 10 face pulls in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1. And you want to make sure that you drive the elbows back just like you do on every other pulling movement ever. Squeeze and pinch those shoulder blades together. Now you can reach out in front of you and have those shoulders come forward. Just make sure you can pull those suckers back. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good. We're still going to keep this high shoulder height, chest height pivot point. Instead of a double overhand grip, check this one out. Okay, you're going to go inside the bungee and then down. Okay, that way the bungee is coming through the palm in between the index finger and the thumb. Just makes it a little bit of an easier grip. So if you recall our PVC pipe or just body weight low trap raise, when we're here, it is the same darn thing, except for instead of lifting up, you're pulling down. So it is called a straight arm pull down, but maybe it makes more sense to you to call it a reverse low trap raise or a backwards low trap raise. Doesn't matter. Here we go. We got that flex forward position, slightly hip hinged position. Now my pivot point is up top, so I want my hands to start up top. And I'm going to go palms down to my thigh. Now if you want to grab that bungee and squeeze tight, then just bring the pinkies to the thigh. But every single time, reset up top. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, and go. 1. The body does not move. 2. The body does not move. 3. Now I could do that low trap raise up top. 4. There's a little bit of tension between my hands, so I do a little bit of itty bitty pull apart. Double dip on all possible ranges of motion and resistance. 6. 7. 8. 9er. And 10. And break. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so here's going to be our first adjustment. I'm actually going to drop it down to about right below the chest, top of the abdomen, bottom of the sternum. That little space in between all of that is called your xiphoid process. So you want to drop that down a little bit. So bottom of the chest, top of the abdomen here. For me, my squat rack is numbered, so I know just because I've done it before, it's setting number 9. And again, for you For you that are at home, you just got to find that possible stationary object that gives you the freedom, shoulder height or lower. Okay, and if it is not, you can still do your rotator cuff. If it's on a door handle, you can still do your rotator cuff in internal external rotation. You can still do your rotator cuff internal external rotation. Your setup just might have to be a little bit different. Okay, so don't get discouraged if you don't have a squat rack or don't have a shoulder height stationary object. It's still possible. All right, so the next one that we're going to do is going to be the same idea. You're going to go in and around your bungee, kind of like the string game Cat's Cradle. Okay, so you're going to come up through and around. Okay, and you're just going to sit back and sit down just a little bit. All we're going to do is a row, but we're trying to squat a little bit. Now, it's not as perfect as a seated row, but we're trying to just get in that seated, slightly squatted stance. Now, as you row, now this setup here, my palms are down, but as I row, I'm going to turn my palms up or supinate or rotate. Okay? As I reach out in front, I'm going to go palms down. I'm going to hold and row, and I'm going to hold and stretch. Okay? This one being that I did not change my bungee tension, my color, I'm going to go 15 repetitions because this is a pulling movement, so it's a crap load stronger. All right? So slightly squatted, arms up, even with that pivot point. We're going to go 15 reps on your row. 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3. Now remember, if you need more tension, change your band if you have more bands. If you need more tension, back up. But make sure you pinch and squeeze those shoulder blades back and drive those elbows back. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Break. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, some of the exercises are a little bit stronger. Some of the exercises are a little bit weaker. So if your rep count is not 15, if it's 10, awesome. Make sure it's a real good looking, solid, good correct form, 10 repetitions. If it's too light, too weak, and 15 is not the number, do 20. It's on a band. Create what you got to create to get that difficulty. All right, so if that was going to be a pull, now we need a push. Now I like to, I'll show you two different ways. I like to do them as a accessory day. So as like a supplement almost to my other pushing, like my bench press, my dumbbell, my barbell, my push-ups. But here's going to be one that I kind of like. It's going to be a fly. Okay, so I'm going to have the tension on my right side so my right arm is working. It's basically going to be a fly. It's just a one-sided fly. And if you guys recall, anytime we do a one-sided anything, we have to engage our midsection to stabilize and account for that uneven tension. Okay, so I'm going to kind of step out a little bit like I have a little bit of a wider stance. Tight in that stomach. Now, the more you open up, the more the resistance is behind you, the harder it is. And same with vice versa. So I want to be kind of parallel to start, and then if I need to adjust, I'll adjust. But you're going to start here, and all you're going to do is bring that across your body. Slight bend in the elbow. Okay, we're going to go 10 reps each arm. 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, I'm just going to flip it around. I'm going to keep my pivot point and my stationary object the same. I will account for that. So now I'm going to do the same darn thing other side. Now it's on the left side on the outside. I'm going to hunker down and tighten down my midsection. Slight squatty or just an athletic stance to account for the movement in 10 repetitions. 3, 2, 1, and go. 9er, and 10. Now that's going to be variation or pressing option number 1. I personally like the fly just because it's a big range of motion movement. It doesn't take a lot of tension because my arms are so far away from my midline. So from a mechanical standpoint, it's a little bit harder. Now this next one is just going to be a basic press, but instead of the resistance being on the side, it's going to be behind me. So if we're doing a unilateral movement or a one-sided movement, the working arm is going to match up or line up with the opposite leg. Other words, my right arm is pressing, so my right foot is back. Okay? Now all you're going to do, imagine you're doing push-ups, imagine you're doing dumbbell chest press, imagine you're doing barbell bench press. The thumb and the index finger is going to be side chest, almost up into the armpit. Okay? The elbow is going to tuck and stay firmly behind the wrist, which is not bent or extended. Okay? It's nice and straight. And all you're going to do is you're going to tighten down that stomach and press. Reload nice and slow. Press with a little bit of speed. So it's a one-arm press, okay? But we're going to go fast on the press and slow on the reset, okay? Let's do it too. We got 10 aside. Right hand, right foot back. We're going to do that punch press. 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now that is very beneficial for everybody. That's just a drill that I like to use when I box, because once I let go of that bungee and I do that same thing and there's no resistance, theoretically the punch has a lot more velocity and strength behind it. So sometimes you got to train like you play, or you got to lift like you fight. So now all I'm going to do is switch my stance and switch my hands. I'm still doing that punch press, but because my left hand, left arm, left side is doing the work, my left foot is back. Okay, I'm still going to tighten down, still got to have the elbow behind the wrist. I'm going to come here. 3, 2, 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Fantastic. So that's a little bit of a different pressing style. Like I said, I like to do that when I'm training for boxing, just to strengthen that exact range of motion or that exact movement. Similar to if a baseball player has a heavier bat, or a baseball player has a heavier bat, or basketball players dribble in practice and shoot with a heavier ball. When you get to your game time weight of equipment, theoretically, you should move faster. All right, so this next one, we're going to drop down maybe about mid-thigh. So this could be the bottom of a chair. If it's like a kitchen table chair, it's roughly about 18 inches. Now, if you have to sit down because you have a low couch or a low pivot point, like if I were to use the bottom of the squat rack, that'd be from the floor. So to achieve that 18-inch ratio from pivot point to pulling point, I would just go to my knees. But I'm going to go, and I know it's about roughly setting number 3 or notch 3. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it right there under 3. Okay. So now we're going to do another rowing movement, another pulling movement, but instead of to the ribs, to the chest, and having my hands and my elbows all in alignment, I'm actually going to do what's called an upright row. So the first one is going to be an upright row. You're going to Sit back, pull back. Now this is a pulling movement, so you're going to be a little bit stronger. You're going to do that same double overhand grip. And what you're going to do is very, 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 very similar to your face pulls that we did earlier, but it's on an upward angle. Here, upright row. You're going to row upwards. Here. Now you still want to squeeze and pinch and retract your shoulder blades. However, there's going to be a slight shrug feel in your traps. That's okay. Okay, so we're going to get 10 upright rows or upward face pulls. Depends on what you want to call it. Depends on what makes sense to you. 10 repetitions in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2. And because we're on a bungee, this particular bungee, a closed bungee, there's tension between my hands. So as I upright row, I can also pull apart to exaggerate my scapular retraction or my shoulders squeezing back. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, I'm going to keep it at the same pivot point. I'm going to come in closer, even though if I go farther, it creates more resistance, which is awesome because it's a pulling movement, it's a stronger movement. But I'm not going to be sitting down and sitting back. I'm going to be standing pretty upright on this one. I'm also going to create a little bit more space between my hands. Okay, and now I'm going to do what's called a high pull. So instead of driving the elbows back and the hands following like a row, I'm actually going to lead with the hands and bring the bungee up towards my face, up towards my eyes, up towards my nose, up towards my forehead. So at the very, very top, my hands are actually going to be higher than my elbows. This makes it a lot easier and more natural to pin the shoulder blades back and exaggerate the chest extension here, thoracic extension. So we're going to do what's called a high pull for 10. In 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, I am going to make a little itty bitty change here for a second so you guys can get a little bit of a different viewing angle. Now, if you have a stationary object, put it all the way on the floor. I'm going to snag my heavy dumbbell and use that as my anchor point or my pivot point. So if you have a heavy dumbbell, grab that because that's what I'm going to do. If you have a low pivot point, just get ready to do the same loop around that pivot point. Okay, so here we are. I got my 30-pound dumbbell, which should suffice. It should not move around or pull, being that this is not a heavy tension band. But I'm going to do the same darn thing here. I'm going to loop it around and pull it through. Now, one thing that you want to make sure that you do, if you have a round dumbbell, turn it perpendicular to you so it doesn't round. I have a hex dumbbell. I still want to turn it because you are very, 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 very less likely to move the dumbbell if you're dragging it compared to if you're rolling it. Now, we've done this exercise a lot of times. It is your one dumbbell, two-armed overhead tricep extension. We're just going to do it with bungees. So if you have a pivot point, throw that bungee on the pivot point, and you're going to come over the top, and you have your tricep extension. Now, I'm just going to keep my grip simple. However you want to grip it, make sure you have a good handle on it. I am going to change my stance a little bit. Okay, I am going to get a little bit of an athletic stance because the weight and the resistance is behind me. So I'm going to account for that and lean forward and crunch my stomach. When we were doing it with dumbbells and straight up and it was vertical, we didn't really have to account for anything other than just standing up tall. So little bit of a squat, split stance squat, and still keep your stomach tight and just elbows in and punch up. 1. Okay, we're going to do 10 bungee or resistant band tricep extensions. 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? There's your overhead tricep extension. Now we're going to do dumbbell kickbacks because we've done them 75,000 times, but we don't have dumbbells. Okay? Pretend we don't have dumbbells. Or you're on the road traveling, if you're ever wherever we're going to travel again, and you got a bungee. Okay? We're going to do a bent over tricep extension or kickback. Now if you recall this guy, your setup is pretty simple. It's like you're doing a bent over row. You do that row and you keep that arm up. But again, because the resistance or the pivot point is in front of you and our range of motion is not perfectly vertical or up and down, you have to account for that. So I'm going to tricep extension, dumbbell kickback with my right side, my right hand, so my right foot is back. My left hand, left elbow, however you want to do it, is on my left side. Okay? If you want more tension, create more distance between you and the pivot point. Okay? We're going to do dumbbell kickback for 10 in 3, 2, 1, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? Same idea, same exercise, other side. 10 repetitions in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and break. And there is your resistance band or your exercise bungee at home, at wherever workout. Now that was just an upper body workout. Super simple, straightforward pushes and pulls. But we were able to sneak in some rotator shoulder stuff, accessory stuff for shoulder health and mobility. If you have questions on those, feel free to reach out and let me know. But I want to start throwing some of these movements at you because all we've done is dumbbells. And slowly start to add in some barbells. Slowly start to add in these guys. So if you don't have one, find one. Buy one. Use one. And you'll thank me for it later. Have a good one. See you guys soon.